Thousands of years ago, the world was divided into different civilizations. The Mayans, the Incas, the Romans, the Egyptians, all the way to the Indus, the Japanese, and the Chinese. Now, all these civilizations had strong trade connections. They had strong knowledge sharing networks and a very liberal cultural exchange. However, over time, these civilizations gave way to modern nation states, with most of these civilizations virtually going extinct. Except one. Bharat, a civilization that has a heritage of at least 5,000 years, and in all possibilities much more than that. A civilization that talks about the cyclical nature of time from Shrutis to Kalpas has to be more than 5,000 years old. But that's a debate for some other time. Bharat, a civilization that has stood the test of time. A civilization that has witnessed hundreds of empires rise and fall. A civilization that has survived the onslaught of hundreds of wars and natural disasters. And a civilization that still survives. After fighting a prolonged battle with the British Raj, this civilization finally secured its sovereign nation state, admirably called India. Namaskar dosto, my name is Prathamesh and welcome to our second episode of Agenda for Sale. My hope and purpose for starting this series is simple: to try and create a safe space for debating and discussing policy proposals. I am personally sick and tired of the filthy identity politics which tends to take center stage in our election discourse. And I sincerely hope I am not the only person who thinks so. If you agree with me, do participate actively in this effort by sharing your views in the comments, signing the change petitions, and liking or sharing these videos with your friends and family. Coming to today's topic, I think this is more about setting a context, setting a frame of reference to discuss the rest of policy items on sale. But if we can find agreement, today's topic may also end up with an amendment to the Constitution of India. Now, given the sensitivity of this topic, I urge you to hear me out completely before forming any opinion of your own. Now, as of now, the identity of India is defined in the preamble of our Constitution. It says, "We the people of India solemnly resolve to constitute India as a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic." Now, there are 3 points to be noted here. 1. The Constitution has been amended 106 times till date. Second, the preamble was amended in 1976 in the middle of an emergency, so technically it was a controversial decision. And third, Dr. Ambedkar, who is deemed the father of the Indian Constitution, himself has said that the second means adopted to avoid rigidity and legalism in the provision of for facility with which the Constitution could be amended. So we can safely discuss the problems I have and the changes I think we can make. Now, I fundamentally have a problem with 2 words only: socialist and secular. Now, I'm not qualified enough, nor do I have a working time machine to comment on why these 2 words were added in our preamble. But both these words have an exclusionary and a divisive connotation to them. I'll give you an example. See, a socialist polity advocates for a collective or government ownership in all means of production of goods and services. This is precisely why our country witnessed a massive wave of nationalization of businesses in the 70s and 80s. Private ownership band, government ownership chalu. Our banks, insurance companies, airline companies, mining companies, refineries, and a wide variety of equipment manufacturing companies were snatched away from their private owners and transferred to the government. Now, as you can imagine, this takes away all the incentives for entrepreneurship. This also brings in a lot of corruption in the system. Efficiency is sacrificed for political gains, and innovation is virtually killed, as there is no incentive for any risk taking. Yes, this may hypothetically assure that all the citizens will get a more equitable access to these goods and services. But at what cost? At what cost? And for a country as aspirational as ours, as entrepreneurial as ours, do you think a socialist economy is what suits our needs? This secularism, on the other hand, is even more problematic. Philosophically speaking, it is the first step that seeds a separatist thought in our society. Separation of state and church, as they say. We probably tend to forget that this current form of secularism was churned out of a prolonged conflict in the European society, where religion overreached to interfere with individual liberties. The church went all guns blazing to stop any scientific progress, which threatened the importance of God. We've all heard the story of Galileo getting imprisoned because he claimed the sun is at the center of our solar system and not the planet Earth, as the church proclaimed. But, and a big but, this has never been a feature of civilizations. Even in the Bharatiya civilization, so to speak, science, spirituality, and politics have always been closely intertwined. In fact, the core feature of our civilization is simply a lifelong journey to seek truth. You may pick up any path, knowledge, worship, action, or meditation. But I do hope I don't need to elaborate that the civilizational ethos is driven by unity. It accepts individual liberties and balances it with collective good. And it advocates a polity that protects this. Which makes me wonder, why do we need to call ourselves secular at all? Don't you think this goes against our very nature in first place? Wait, let's zoom out for a moment. I know this is a very heavy topic to talk about and very sensitive as well. But there is a reason why talking about this right now is very important. You see, every decision we make is made up of 5 building blocks. These are identity, personality, purpose, motivations, and trade. Now, trade here refers to the value we can create and the value we consume. And these 5 building blocks are valid and applicable to all the 5 levels of decision making: self, team, society, nation state, and civilization. Now, if you watch keenly, this 5x5 matrix can help us decode any and every situation and any and every decision all across the world. From Putin's war in Ukraine to the identity crisis in the West. Today we are fundamentally talking about this identity block of the nation state called India. Zooming in, what is India's identity really? Now, the preamble to our constitution defines our identity as a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. But as we discussed earlier, socialist and secular doesn't really suit us that well. In my view, our identity should be defined rather as a sovereign, democratic, civilizational republic. India, that is Bharat, a sovereign, democratic, civilizational republic. Now, this new identity marker naturally gives way to finding out what other building blocks of our decision making can look like. For example, as a civilizational republic, I see us as a nation state that is compassionate and just, which treats all of its citizens equally, provides for equitable growth, and works towards protecting the socio-cultural unity of our society. This also translates into a mutually conducive approach to building relationships with other countries, as witnessed by our vaccine Maitri. No need for us to be a socialist state to do so. As a civilizational republic, I see us as a nation state which values honesty and loyalty. A nation state that takes pride in celebrating the success of its citizens and also fiercely protects the interests of the vulnerable. As a civilizational republic, I see us as a nation state which is patient and self-disciplined. We have survived for thousands of years and we will for 1,000 more. Let's all enjoy the time we have left to travel in a way that benefits the people around us, to create a better world for the entire humanity. India's purpose, therefore, becomes to impart these civilizational values and unite the world as one family. As the only surviving ancient civilization, I think it becomes our moral responsibility to not just cherish our civilizational values, but also to share it widely and happily with the rest of the world. The entire world is filled with conflicts right now, and a big chunk of these conflicts are driven by a desire to impose and enforce one point of view over the other, one nation's interest at the cost of others, imposing one society's beliefs by mocking and ridiculing the other society's beliefs. And as the only surviving ancient civilization, I'd argue it is our divine responsibility to advocate our civilizational ethos, which still believes that the entire world is one family, even after suffering 2,000 plus years of invasions and wars. Now, America's foreign policy was driven by their manifest destiny. I'm sure ours can be guided by our divine responsibility. But if we have to fulfill this purpose of ours, we will have to be economically and politically strong. Kaliyug hai. The advice given by a Big Four consulting firm at a hefty price of a few $1 million is more valuable than a bankrupt sadhu sitting in some remote cave. So India will have to become self-sufficient. It will have to become economically strong. And it will have to become politically strong. Now, both self-sufficiency and economic strength cannot be achieved without our entrepreneurs. And political strength can be best achieved by advocating for socio-cultural unity. The added advantage of this is that we ourselves will become a beacon of hope by practicing what we want to preach to the world. Coming to India's trade profile, yes, we have a very diverse trade profile. But as of date, we are a cash-burning enterprise as a nation state, with much higher imports than our exports. We imported goods and services worth nearly 5.7 lakh crores, but exported only about 4 lakh crores worth of goods and services, meaning a negative trade balance of nearly 2 lakh crores. If we look at our GDP figures, we are primarily a service-driven economy. But I'm sure we can do 10x better if we really tap into our potential for innovation and manufacturing. We are a $3 trillion economy right now, and the BJP has promised us to take to a $5 trillion economy in the next couple of years, $7 trillion by 2030 and probably 30 trillion by 2047. But we have only 16 lakh companies registered in India. America has about 33 lakh companies registered, and China has a whopping 50 lakh companies registered and active. We Indians have filed only 60,000 patents in 2022. America, on the other hand, has filed 6 lakh patents, and China has filed 16 lakh patents in the same year. But this simply presents a golden opportunity to participate in India's growth story and to contribute in radically improving India's trade profile. And this, my friends, is my idea of India. A civilizational republic that not only has a very big window of opportunity for financial growth, but also a divine responsibility to unite the entire world as one family. I'm sure this will take a lot of time and a lot of effort. But I don't relate to a socialist and a secular India. I resonate more with a civilizational India. I want to ask you guys, what do you think? Do you think a socialist, secular republic is better than a civilizational republic? Please do share your thoughts on this in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching today's episode in Agenda for Sale. As I mentioned earlier, today's discussion was really needed to set a context for all the upcoming agenda items I have to offer. Just to give you a sneak peek, one of the upcoming agenda items actually proposes setting up a new ministry to conduct our civilizational affairs. But without today's episode, I don't think that agenda item would have made a lot of sense. Anyway, please do subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on the upcoming agenda items and participate in this effort to clean up our election discourse and have debate on actual policy issues. Sign the change petitions, share the videos, and keep the conversation going. Remember, the future of politics starts with us. Stay tuned and see you next time.